now. Is anyone else from staff here?
Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, this is Daita Sergi, Programs Coordinator with AASHE. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our webinar today. As many of you know, AASHE's mission is to inspire and catalyze higher education to lead the global sustainability transformation. We provide an expansive collection of online resources, networking tools, and educational events such as today's webinar, and an annual conference and expo which will be held October 9 to 12 this year in Baltimore. AASHE members represent over 20% of the 4,000 colleges and universities in the US, as well as institutions in 13 countries, including Canada and Mexico. You can learn more about AASHE on our website, www.aashe.org. Today's webinar, Making the Most of AASHE's New Campus Sustainability Hub, is one of several professional development opportunities hosted by AASHE this year. For more details about additional professional development opportunities, including AASHE's Sustainability Officers Retreat, July 27 to 29, check out the events section of our website. Please note this webinar is being recorded. If you experience technical difficulties or have to leave early, you and others can view the recording later. Presentation materials will be available after the live broadcast as well. Everyone in the audience is on mute, so the only way to communicate with the panelists is by typing your questions or comments in the questions pane in the control panel on your screen. Feel free to type in questions or comments at any point during the webinar, and this will be addressed after the presentation. If you have additional questions, please email them to resources@aashe.org. At the end of the webinar, you'll have the option to provide feedback regarding today's presentation. We take your suggestions into account when planning for future webinars, so please fill out the post-webinar survey, and thank you in advance for letting us know your thoughts. At this time, I'd like to introduce today's webinar presenter, Monika Urbanski, AASHE's Data and Content Manager. Monika joined AASHE in 2011 and manages AASHE's resources, publications, and STARS data accuracy initiatives. She leads the Campus Sustainability Hub project, a team of AASHE staff members that has been working for several years to improve accessibility of AASHE resources. So finally, it is my pleasure to welcome all attendees and thank you for joining us today. At this time, I'm going to turn to Monika to get us started.
Thank you so much, Daita, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. I have the extreme honor to introduce AASHE's newest resource and member benefit, the Campus Sustainability Hub. The Hub is an online resource library that allows you to connect, share, and learn about sustainability in higher education. AASHE members have full access to nearly 6,000 resources in the Hub, with more being added daily. Here is a quick overview of what we'll be learning about today. We're going to discuss goals for the project and why the Hub was built. Then we'll take a quick virtual tour of the Hub and learn how to browse and navigate. We'll spend some time on the homepage, learn the difference between sustainability topics and content types, and learn tips for using the search and filter options to quickly and easily find the resources that are most useful to you. After that, we'll walk through the process for submitting a resource. Then you'll hear about the different access levels within the Hub and what you can do to get full access. Finally, we'll discuss some of the exciting plans and features in store for the Hub to keep you informed of our next steps over the coming months. To begin, let's discuss goals for the project and how the Hub relates to its predecessor, the AASHE Resource Center. Now, to do this, I'm going to come out of the presentation briefly and navigate over to the original AASHE Resource Center available right here. The Resource Center has been around as long as AASHE has been an organization, or just about as long. Both the Hub and the original Resource Center had a similar goal, which is to provide an online resource library for learning and information sharing. The other main similarity is that both the Hub and the Resource Center are organized based on sustainability topics. Here, for example, when you are in the Hub, or I'm sorry, in the Resource Center, you can scroll down to see that the various topics included are also similar to what is listed in the Hub. So, for example, you could click on curriculum and access a list of databases, research publications, case studies, professional development opportunities, all related to curriculum. So the Resource Center has worked pretty well for AASHE over the past few years. However, there were a few challenges that we wanted to overcome with this new project. The original Resource Center was built about a decade ago when IT capacity was more limited. It was built up incrementally by adding new databases and lists over time. As a result, the Resource Center became highly decentralized, so users had to conduct the same search in a number of places just to find a list of resources that they could find useful. So we took all of this into account in developing our project goals for the Hub. And one of the main issues that we wanted to tackle was incorporating or integrating the resources into a centralized, easy-to-navigate platform. And this allowed us to migrate thousands of resources from the current Resource Center into the into the Campus Sustainability Hub. For example, all of our academic programs, our conference presentations, research centers, and institutes have all been incorporated into the Hub. There are a few that are not there yet, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. In terms of migration, in terms of phase one, some of the other goals we're going to be doing, or some of the other items that we wanted to address, is advanced filtering and search functions. We wanted to ensure that users could easily find what they were looking for. We made sure we wanted to update and modernize the look of the Resource Center and also improve the functionality. Another important feature was to allow users to continuously add and update resources, and this would ensure that the Hub would remain dynamic and continuously growing. And finally, an important goal for many of us was to reduce staff time required to maintain resources. We found that because of how decentralized the Resource Center was, a lot of the maintenance sites were also scattered in different places, and that made it very challenging to maintain and update over time. So that's basically what we intended to do when we launched this project. And now that we talked about our goals, I want to switch gears a little bit. And next we're going to talk about the navigation and browsing within the Resource Center, within the Campus Sustainability Hub. Now, I'm going to transfer over to the main AASHE website, because before we get started with navigation and browsing of the Hub, I want to make sure that you all are aware of how you can access the Hub from AASHE's homepage. So first, to get on AASHE's homepage, make sure you are on www.aashe.org. From there, on every page within our website, you should see at the top left-hand side a list of resources related to all the major AASHE programs and resources we have: AASHE Bulletin, Conference, Hub, Stars. So you can simply click on Hub. That'll take you to the Hub. You could also go under Resources and click on Campus Sustainability Hub from there. And right now we're also featuring a homepage slide, which might be up for a few more weeks, which you can click on that directly as well. Once you do, you'll be in the Campus Sustainability Hub, and you can go ahead and start your browsing. Okay, the first thing I wanted to point out here is that at the very top of your page, you should see your account information on the right-hand side. As you can see here, I'm logged in under my AASHE email address. Whenever you go into the Hub, I would just recommend checking that and making sure that you are logged in. If you're not, you probably will not be able to access many of the resources that we have listed here. From there, you want to I want to point out the submission guidelines about and feedback section on the bottom of the main page. This is the header or the footer section of the Hub. It's going to be listed on every single page in the Hub, so you can go here at any time. We'll probably be referencing these again throughout the webinar, so just wanted to let you know that that's the footer for every page here. All right, so the other distinction on the main page, or probably the section that your eyes are most quickly drawn to here, are these buttons with all the icons. So what exactly are they? So This is the Browse Topic List view, and this is the default view whenever you first go into the Campus Sustainability Hub. The Browse Content Types list is something you can toggle to pretty easily. So as you can see, I switched over to the content types there, and now I'm going to switch back to the topic list. So I wanted to quickly explain the difference between topics and content types. Topics are broad areas of sustainability, and you may recognize these since they're used in other AASHE programs, such as STARS, the Bulletin, and the AASHE Conference Program. Every resource in the Hub relates to 1, 2, and up to 3 sustainability topics. With content types, these relate to the format of a resource. Each content type has its own unique submission form. This means that every resource in the Hub aligns with exactly one content type. So although a resource could relate to water and curriculum, for example, it can only be related to a single content type, such as conference presentation. We're going to talk a little bit more about these two options very soon, but before that, I wanted to draw your attention now to the search function within the Hub. And the search bar is located at the top right-hand side of every page in the Hub. And you could, it operates like a normal search bar, so you can type in the words that you're most interested in. For this example, I'm interested in looking up athletics. So if you type athletics and click go, this will take you to a list of all of the resources in the Hub that are in some way related to athletics. Usually that might include the word athletics in the title or in one of the descriptive fields. In this case, there are 62 resources that relate to athletics. You could filter these further down to see what, to drill down a little bit more closely. The filters are on the left-hand side. But I will be talking about the filters a little bit more in depth in a few moments. So for right now, I wanted to point out a really useful tip that I find myself using almost every day, so many of you may as well. But suppose that you wanted to know, I want to just get a comprehensive list of everything in the Hub, rather than going to a view that shows me everything under a topic or everything under a particular content type. Well, you can do that, and all you need to do is clear out the search bar so there's nothing in it, or if you start on the home page, there will automatically be nothing there, and simply click go. And the results will pull up everything currently in the Resource Center. So as you can see right now, there are 5,977 current resources. And this information may be a bit overwhelming for right now, but what I find particularly useful is from here you can drill down to see all the resources related to whatever variable you want to look up. So in this case, for example, I think it might be really useful for somebody to decide, I'm at a certain institution, I want to see all the resources at my institution that are currently in the Hub. This will be really useful if you want to add a resource down the road and you want to double check and make sure that it hasn't already been added. So in this case, I'm going to pull up an example. I'm going to type in, I'd like to see the resources for University of California, Berkeley, but I don't want to type all that in, so I'm just going to type Berkeley. And it'll bring up everything that has the word Berkeley in it, which actually, surprisingly, there's quite a few. But this is the one that I want here, University of California, Berkeley. So I'll click on that. And then from here, I can simply go down to Apply Filters and click on that. And in a moment, it'll pull up every single resource in the Campus Sustainability Hub that is affiliated with University of California, Berkeley. As you can see, there are 87 results. Many of these deal with conference presentations. Some of them are academic programs. Some of them are publications. And you can see the type of resource that this is over here in the gray section. Right now, you can't really click on that. That's something we're going to hopefully incorporate later on. But you can click on a single resource to view that information. You won't see the edit and admin information. That's something that only AASHE staff have access to. But everything else here is going to be accessible, including the link to any programs or resources. Okay, so the next piece that I wanted to talk through is when you are in the Campus Sustainability Hub and you're browsing the topic lists. and you want to get more information on a particular topic, then there's a lot of different options for you. So I'm going to start with, sorry about that, my phone alarm is going off. I forgot to turn it off. So I'm going to start with campus engagement. So I'll click on that, and the link from campus engagement will take me to a list of options here. The default list is going to take me to a toolkit page, as you can see here in the green. You can also toggle over to resources and stars data. So I'm going to explain each of these very briefly. So the toolkit page, this is a page that is separated into 4 sections. The first section here is introduction, and it just basically covers all of the information that it's basically a short paragraph about what that topic is about. Next, we have a featured resources section. Featured resources are the types of resources that provide a high-level overview of a topic, are likely to be broadly applicable to a majority of users, or are particularly helpful in understanding or applying issues related to that topic. These often include publications or tools, and these are selected by AASHE staff. So we also have a section to the right here on new resources, and these are automatically updated based on the latest approved resource showing up first. And we have, it looks like 5 recent resources are listed at any given time. So here you can see that we had a few resources updated just recently. One was approved 4 hours ago, one approved yesterday, a few actually approved yesterday. So over here on the bottom, we have latest news from the AASHE Bulletin. And this is also an automatically integrated section within the toolkit section, where we are actually pulling information from AASHE's Bulletin, our weekly e-newsletter. And this is pulling the news related to the topic that you're on, in this case, campus engagement. And you can click on any of these. I'm going to click on the first one here listed, and it will take you to the news story. In this case, it's actually a website from Illinois State University. I haven't yet really spent a whole lot of time looking at a particular resource in detail, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this Residents Move Out Waste Program, which was recently added. And this is from Wilfrid Laurier University. It was approved today, and this is a publication. It's actually classified as a news article. They've provided a description, an author to the article, and they've shared some nice images as well. And there's a link that you can access to view the article a little bit more in depth. Okay, so the next piece that I'm going to talk about now is the Resources tab. So you just need to toggle over to that section, and you may recognize this because it looks very similar to the search results that we talked about a few minutes ago. And here you can basically view every single resource that is classified under campus engagement in this case. There are over 11,000 results. And so when you see this many results, one of the things that is really useful is to start taking advantage of the filtering options. So again, the filters are on the left-hand side. You'll always find them there. They are going to be standard, which means they always appear in the same order, and for the most part, you're going to see the same variables listed. There are a few exceptions, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. So in this case, I'm going to filter on a state within campus engagement just to see what we can pull up. And so to do that, you have to go to countries first, and I'm going to select the United States, last option there, and I'm going to choose the state of Texas to show you some examples. And then I'm going to apply the filter, and in a moment it'll pull up all of the campus engagement resources that are affiliated with organizations in Texas. And here they are. You can see them listed. There are about 36 results. And I'm going to now, I'm not going to filter this anymore. I'm just going to apply a sort filter. So it's not really filtering, it's just resorting everything in order and pulling up the most recent first. Still 36 results after I did that. So I'm going to click on the top resource here, University of Texas at Austin's Energy Conservation Campaign, just to give you a little more information there. So University of Texas, this is a outreach material. I wanted to highlight this one because outreach materials are one of the newer content types that we are introducing with the Hub. And what that means is that it's not something that was already in the Resource Center. So right now we've maybe got about a dozen or two of these, so we're encouraging folks to submit more outreach materials. The neat thing about outreach materials and similar resources like photographs is that you can share your images, and the images actually, the thumbnails will show up when you view the resource detail view. You can actually click on one of these to see the image in full as well. So we definitely encourage you to submit your resources with images if you have them. Virtually every content type will allow you the option to submit images. Okay, so the next piece, I actually wanted to stay in that, I forgot. The next piece I wanted to talk about is the tagging feature. So as you can see, and the resource is organized in a consistent manner, so it's always listed with the title first, organization, date posted and updated, the sustainability topics, the content type, and then here we get to tags. So the tags are a very powerful feature, at least in my opinion, for identifying resources that are most useful to you or others. And that's because they add an additional level of detail that can't be captured by simply classifying a sustainability topic, academic discipline, or office or department. So in this case, I'm going to demonstrate what that might look like. I'll click on the Behavior Change tab. And what that will do is it will show up it will pull up every single resource that is currently tagged with behavior change. As you can see, there are 114 results, and you can basically look through these. If you clicked on each of these, you would see that they are all tagged with behavior change. And actually to the left, you can view that the tag is showing up in the filtered list as well. What I'm going to try to do next is I've got 114 options here. It's pretty clear that that's a lot to look through. So I might want to drill down just a little bit more. And perhaps now I want to look at not only just general behavior change, but I want to specify that I'm interested in waste-related behavior change resources. So all you need to do there is navigate to sustainability topic, click on waste, keep the behavior change tag as it is, and then go ahead and apply your filters as well. So that pulled up 7 results, which is a much smaller list for me to look through and peruse. So that's just wanted to share some examples of how the tags can be used along with some of the other variables here in order to find a list of resources and then drill down and narrow that down until you have exactly what you're looking for. All right, so that's basically the explanation for the resources tab. I'm going to go back to, I'm actually going to try a different topic this time. And this time we're going to click on the energy topic. And again, you see the toolkit, the resources tab. Now I'd like to talk through the STARS data tab. So the STARS tab includes data from the Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System related to a particular topic, in this case energy. This section includes STARS data views for benchmarking lists, content, and score displays. The displays are accessible on the STARS website. So if you click on, so here I've clicked on energy overall, and I'm going to go ahead and see what the overall energy scores are. All right. It's going to take a moment because it actually has to transfer to a different server. Now we're looking at the stars.aashe.org web domain, and as you can see, if you scroll down here, the organization type, we're filtering on all institutions, so we're not excluding anybody there. And scrolling down here, the score display shows up that we are including the energy subcategory. And if you scroll down a little bit further, you will see an actual list of all of these STARS 2.0 institutions that have submitted and the scores that they earned in energy. And then from here, you can always export your results to do a little bit of additional analysis, or you can, you can even copy and paste this into Excel, but I definitely recommend exporting the results. There are some added variable columns that are included when you do that. So this is basically the first step in integrating STARS into the hub. You can definitely go through the STARS tabs on the various topics and click on all of some of the other options here. You could get into more detail on on-site renewable non-electric energy devices, for example, information on renewable energy credits. So I definitely encourage you to look through this. This section, however, I have to say this is a first step in integrating STARS. We recognize that there is great potential for improving the information that we include about STARS in the hub and providing more robust data views, taking advantage of the filters that the hub already uses, as well as providing some additional data filters. We'll be talking about some of that a little bit towards the end of the webinar when we get to the section on future plans, though. All right, so next I'm going to talk through, we've gotten through all 3 tabs in the topics section. So I'm going to go back to the home page and transition over to the content types. So again, these are slightly different. These are structured around the resource submission forms. And so I think for this example, I'm going to take you to the academic programs. So clicking on academic programs will take you directly to a list of resources. This is probably similar to what you've been seeing. One difference here is that you no longer see the toolkit option, you no longer see the STARS option. It's simply a list of the resources that are available. Now, one of the things that is different in this case, however, is that under the content type view, you have access to some unique fields that perhaps you wouldn't be able to access elsewhere. Throughout the Resource Center, throughout all resources in the hub, we include a few standard fields like sustainability topic. We often include academic disciplines, offices, and departments. However, sometimes we ask specific fields on submission forms. In the case of academic programs, we asked about program type. So the nice thing about viewing the content type view is that some of these unique fields appear as filters. And so in this case, you can select program type to identify what type of program you're interested in looking for. In this case, I'm going to click on the minor because perhaps I am a faculty member working with a committee. We're looking at building a new sustainability minor, and we'd like to see what types of minor programs other institutions have right now and maybe look at the types of courses they've got. So I'm going to go ahead and filter on that to see what the results are. Here again, 145, that's a lot of minors for me to dig through. So there, I might want to again drill down a little bit more to see what other options are available. In this case, I might think about looking at academic programs at institutions that are similar to mine. So what I'm going to do next here is I'm going to go use the organization type filter. And in this case, perhaps I'm a master's institution, so I'll select that. And maybe I also want to go based on size. That might narrow down the list even more. So I'm about 6,000. We have a student FTE of about 6,000, so I will go ahead and click on 5,000 to 10,000 there. All right, so we've got minor selected, we've got master's institutions selected, and we've got 5,000 to 10,000 FTE. We can apply the filters and see what results we get. This brought up 11 results. So you can probably, this is a short enough list, you can probably go through each one by one. You know, you can use some of the other filters if those are more relevant for you. You can sort based on recent, based on the content type, based on the title there. So hopefully this information about the filters will be useful for you as you start diving in and researching what's already in the hub. The next step in today's webinar, the next piece I want to walk you through, is actually submitting a resource. So in order to submit a resource, on the home page, there is a Submit a Resource icon, and this is going to show up on the other browse views as well, the main browse views. So you can go ahead and click on Submit a Resource, and what you'll see is, right away is that this page is very similar to the content types page that we just looked at. And this, again, is because the submission forms are unique based on the content type. So I won't have time to explain every content type on this call, but I would encourage anyone who's thinking about submitting a resource to review the submission guidelines. Those can be found in two places. Again, they're at the bottom of the footer under submission guidelines here. And then on this particular page for submit a resource, you can access them here. And I'll click on that just to show you what they look like. So we include a few basic guidelines that every resource needs to follow. And then we include some more detailed guidelines based on the content type. The basic guideline is that resources should relate to higher ed sustainability or be relevant to campus sustainability stakeholders. Although there's no time frame restriction on older resources, for example, you've had a research center or an academic program that's been in place for decades, you can still submit that, and we encourage you to submit that as long as it's currently relevant. We will not accept duplicate requests, and that is something that we always check for, and we would encourage you, if you are going to submit something, to go ahead and check if it's not already in the hub. And you can do that again by simply using the filter and search options to drill down and see if your institution has a particular type of resource that you're thinking of submitting. We will not accept event promotion activities or things with deadlines. These types of opportunities should be submitted to the AASHE Bulletin instead, and that is linked here, so you can click there to learn more information. And finally, product and service brochures or other promotional material will not be accepted. However, we do have a new resource, and I'll actually be talking about this a little bit later whenever we get to the Sustainable Campus Partners Directory. But this is actually a new resource that was launched a few months ago at AASHE, where AASHE business members and nonprofit organizations that are members can upload their brochures or promotional material there, and all of our everyone in the campus sustainability community can then access that to learn about various products and services that could help them with meeting their sustainability goals. So that's the submission guidelines. Next, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through some of the content types that you can submit for. I wanted to point out something about the videos content type. You can submit a video. Usually this might be a YouTube link or something like that. We do not currently accept files that are video files, basically, because that would take up quite a bit of space on our servers and put a strain on our performance. However, we do allow for links there. So we encourage you to submit videos related to campus sustainability. Another area that one of my colleagues asked me to point out, she's actually moderating this webinar, the videos actually include webinars. So AASHE will be adding a lot of our archived webinars under the videos content type. So if you've ever participated in a webinar, or especially an AASHE webinar, that is where you would be able to access the webinar under videos. And again, that's because we will be posting, along with any resources like presentation slides and whatnot, we'll be posting the archived video recording of that webinar. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and help you understand the process for submitting a resource. And in this case, I feel like the best way to do it is just to walk you through the process. So I actually identified a resource that was a tool that was had a good potential for being added as a sustainability-related tool. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on Tool to submit a new tool resource. And this, I have a website already open that has this information. It's this U.S. Climate Resilience Toolkit. It's a toolkit. It's not specifically focused on higher education, but it's definitely something that the higher education community can use, either in classroom or elsewhere for instruction, research, what have you. So it's definitely something that's relevant for what we're doing in the hub and can be included. So I'm going to go ahead and click on About and capture some information about this to add into the submission form. Right now I'm just going to copy the brief description, and I'll add that under the description section of the form. And then I'll copy the title, add that to the title section. Now this organization, I had to do some digging around, but when I got to the Contact tab, it looks like it's the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. And then in this instance, luckily, the NOAA, or NOAA, as some may call it, is already in our database. So I'm going to type in oceanic, because that'll pull up the organization, and there it is. So we've got the organization added. In terms of topics, this particular resource looks like it relates most closely with the air and climate topic. So I'll go ahead and add that. Academic disciplines, this one talks about climate change and atmospheric issues. So I'm going to add the physical and earth sciences because it has atmospheric sciences included. And I think in this case, offices and departments, I'm going to skip. And I'll just pause here for a moment to clarify. Anytime you see the red asterisk, as you may have already figured out, that is a required field. Whereas if there is no asterisk, you do not have to add information. Now here we have the tags section, and this works with autofill as well. So I'm thinking that this relates to resilience, and we have several great resources already that relate to that. So if I start typing it, it will come up. So I'll go ahead and add that. It looks like this particular resource also relates to climate change. So I'm going to add that. We have quite a few climate change resources. So that'll ensure that this gets grouped with resources that have those tags as well. All right, I'm going to get to the author section. And when I looked at this particular resource before, I was not able to find a relevant author. There probably were several, but they weren't listed anywhere. So for this resource, I'm going to skip this section. However, I did want to talk about this a little bit more because there are some really great features that you could look at here. One of the nice things about adding an author is there are two ways you can do this. You can go to the Add Author Plus option, and by clicking that, it pulls up the 4 fields that you're able to add. The name field is the only required field, so if you only know the name but you don't know the other information, you can just add that. However, there is another way to add the author information, and this is a great shortcut if you happen to be the author that is authored this particular resource. So I'm going to pretend like I am for a moment, and I'm going to select I am an author, and voila, all of my information automatically populated except for organization, and that's because AASHE is treated slightly differently than other organizations in our database. But your organization should pop up automatically along with the other information. And this happens because we require, when you submit a resource, we require that you are logged in. So we have all of that information kind of stored on the back end, and we're collecting that, keeping that behind the scenes for now. So I don't want to submit this under my name because I obviously did not author this resource. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that out. And just to double check, I'll see that it was cleared out. It looks like it was. There are no files that I need to submit related to this resource, so I'm going to go ahead and skip the files section and go right to links. Now for anything that's submitted under a tool, you need to upload either a file or a link. So if I tried to submit now, I would get an error message as soon as it validates, and it's going to tell me that at least one file or website is required. So oops, I'm going to go ahead and add that. So add the website, and in this case, I'm going to call it the Toolkit website. And you don't have to add a label, it's just nice to have one so that it hyperlinks to that with that name instead of just showing the URL. All right, I'm going to move over to the homepage for the Climate Resilience Toolkit. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it right in here. Now, one thing to remember is you have to include the entire URL, including the HTTP or HTTPS or whatever. If you try to omit the first part, you're going to get an error message saying, please enter a URL. So just remember that if there's anything that comes up, it might be because you did not include the full URL. So it's always a good best practice to just simply copy and paste. Even if it doesn't show up while you're copying it, it will show up when you paste it. All right, so this looks ready. I'm going to check it over again really quick. I've got the information that was listed as an error initially, so that's taken care of. Everything else looks good, so I can submit. It's going to take a moment or two to validate, and then as soon as everything looks good, it's going to send me this confirmation page. And you're not going to see the edit button there because, again, this is something that it's a sort of a staff administrative icon that allows us to edit the message anytime we want, but you're not going to see that. So you get this confirmation, and what that means is that we move on to the moderation stage of submitting a resource. So as soon as this got sent and confirmed, I just received an email, or at least resources@AASHE.org got an email saying there's a new resource waiting to be reviewed. So that lets me know that one of us can then go in, take a look at the resource, check it over, make sure everything checks out. We'll check for things like whether the URL is working and whether there are certain tags that we may want to add to our resource. That's one of the more frequent edits that we make, but usually very minor edits. Of course, we do check to ensure that the submission guidelines are met as well, like ensuring that there's no duplication with adding a resource. But as soon as that process happens, you'll receive, once we approve that particular resource, you will receive an email telling you that it has been added. It will share with you the link where you can access the new resource in the hub, and then you can go in and look at that and make sure everything works. So that's basically the moderation process. I'm going to see here, let's see. The only other piece that might be useful as far as submitting a resource, and this question doesn't come up very often, but it does for somebody who's new to the campus sustainability scene. But occasionally when you're submitting a resource and you want to add an organization, it turns out that your particular organization or the organization that's affiliated with the resource is not in our database, so it won't show up in the drop-down list. And all that means basically is that we need to add that organization to our database. Right now there is no automated way to do that, so you can simply email us to let us know, hey, can you please add this organization to your list so I can add a resource. And usually we'll follow up within a few hours to a day. The resource for that, by the way, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, resources@AASHE.org. Feel free to email us with any questions about that, anything else related to the submission forms, or really anything else. Okay, so that takes us through submitting a resource. The last two items for us to talk about today is accessibility and then plans for the future. And it looks like I have a decent amount of time left here, so I'm going to go ahead and do a walkthrough of accessibility. So basically everything we looked at today so far during this webinar demonstrates what any user from an AASHE member organization would see when accessing the hub. There were a few exceptions, such as the administrative controls that you're viewing, because I'm displaying this, I'm signed in as an AASHE staff member. But not every resource in the hub is viewable, and actually most of the features are going to be accessible. I'm sorry, not every resource is accessible if you're not an AASHE member, and actually most of the resources are restricted, so you may be able to filter and search, for example, but clicking on a resource will be restricted for you. So I think the easiest way to show you what this would look like is I'm going to just log out from my account, and now I am in the Campus Sustainability Hub. You can see I'm not logged in, so I have the option to log in, create an account, or become a member at the top here. So if you're seeing this screen, that means you might want to try to log in or create an account. So if you're not logged in, there are still a lot of great features that you can take advantage of in the Campus Sustainability Hub. For example, the lists are fully accessible. The browsing is pretty open, so you can still identify, you can still view various resources. However, you're going to start seeing something that we haven't seen before, which is this little membership required icon. If you try to click on a membership required icon, you're going to get this message that you need to either log into your account. If you forgot your password, you can reset it. If you don't have an account, this is the link where you can go to create one. And then if you're not a member, you will have the option to learn about the benefits of membership to join. So that's something to watch out for if maybe you're from a member affiliated organization, but you're seeing restrictions. It's probably either that you're not logged in or you are logged in. And this is something that commonly happens in other programs as well. You might have a login for your personal email address. Maybe it's a Gmail account, maybe it's a Hotmail account, who knows. So you created that login under a personal email address. That email address, the domain name, is actually what determines your access level. So if you're a faculty member at a university, you definitely want to create an account that has that university email domain. Usually it ends in edu. Of course, if you're an AASHE business member, then you want to use your business email whenever you create your account. Some of the other items that you'll see when you are logged in under curriculum, well, actually, I'm going to take you first back to the home page, and then I'm going to take you to the content types. There is one type of resource that is openly accessible to everyone, and that is the academic programs database. So the academic programs in the hub, you can have access to all 1,340 of them at any point in time, whether you're logged in or not. You can click on them and you will see all the information about them, the description, the link to the website. And so the reason we left the academic programs section of the hub open so that it's completely openly accessible is, there's several reasons. We wanted to balance, making this a high value member benefit with, encouraging engagement, encouraging folks visiting the hub. So that was really important to us. The academic programs database on the original resource center was openly accessible as well, so we wanted to honor that. And then finally, we wanted to think about our target audience for this particular resource. And in this case, we realized that a lot of folks that might be looking at academic programs are probably prospective students, possibly still in high school, but definitely not affiliated with an AASHE member higher education institution, but they want to be. So this is a way to ensure that those potential future students will have access to all of the information here and will be able to conduct searches for academic programs. Now, occasionally we will also include other resources as being open, and an example of this may be that an AASHE staff may identify a type of resource that has a Creative Commons criteria under it, like, for example, we want to leave this open, so it's usually on a publications page. Whenever that we do come across something like that, we'll honor that. So when we moderate a submitted resource, we have an option to make that openly available or make it available if you are logged in. So otherwise, you're going to see quite a few restrictions if you're not logged in, you don't have an account yet. Excuse me. Once again, you'll see the icons next to these, and you'll be asked to either create an account, log in, or become a member. One of the things I wanted to point out is that anyone can submit a resource. It doesn't matter if you are from a AASHE member organization or you're from a non-AASHE organization. However, again, because we're trying to track submitter information behind the scenes, you do have to create an account or log in with an AASHE account in order to submit a resource. So, so that's the one caveat. And again, we try to do that because we want to collect information on who's submitting. it's ensuring that we don't have to ask for your submitter information on every single form. So it's streamlining the forms a little bit and ensuring that we're tracking information about who's submitting what. So if you would like to submit, you're not at a member organization, but you think you might want to become a member, you can click on Become a Member near the top to learn a little bit more. Our membership team will be happy to talk with you if you have any questions about AASHE membership. There are various tiers depending on whether you're a higher education institution, a nonprofit organization, a government organization, or a business. So feel free to connect with our membership team at any time to talk about that. And if you are not with an AASHE member, or if you're not with an AASHE member organization, you probably won't be, then I definitely encourage you to at least create an account so you can take advantage of some of the opportunities such as submitting a resource. Okay, so next what we're going to talk about are future plans for the Campus Sustainability Hub. And we're really excited about what's in store for the Hub in the coming months, and we think it's really important to keep all of you updated on our plans so that you know what to expect. I'm going to be discussing our future plans chronologically in terms of what we're planning on working on first. So over the next few weeks, we plan on adding more filters to the Hub. Some of the things we'll be adding are unique filters specific to certain content types. For example, the date of a publication, the date that a publication was released, or the date that a conference presentation was presented. We are collecting that information in our submission forms. However, we have not yet included those unique filters on the content type lists. Another example is the type of publication for the publication content type. So that's a pretty high priority for us. Another really high priority is there are still a few standard fields that are common across all resources that we haven't yet added. And the primary example here is the academic discipline field. This is something that every resource you have, you can include an academic discipline if you would like. Sometimes it's required in particular for academic programs, research centers and institutes, course materials. For those three, you're going to be required to include a discipline because that's pretty relevant for those three forms. But for everything else, it's optional. But because we're asking for that on every resource, we want to incorporate a filter in our filtered lists so that whenever you want to access certain, we added the physical sciences, a resource under physical sciences earlier. Perhaps you might want to filter on the physical sciences discipline and pull up everything there. So we've actually gotten quite a bit of feedback since we launched in the last 3 weeks, since the Hub was launched. So this is probably one of our higher priority issues we'd like to resolve. So hopefully in the coming weeks we'll have an academic discipline filter. The other filter that we're going to add that is asked, it's a standard field on all forms, is the office and department filter. We just haven't gotten as much feedback about that one, so we'll probably wait to do the academic discipline filter first. Another item that we're working on in the short term is incorporating more data from the AASHE Resource Center. So as I mentioned before, we've already added a lot of information from the original AASHE Resource Center, including the academic programs, case studies, conference presentations, and a few other types of resources. However, there were several that we just weren't able to fit into the tight timeline that we had. And so these are sort of this is going to be the next focus over the next few weeks. So the solar PV database in the original Resource Center, and I'm going to go ahead and find that for you very quickly. You can access that under the energy section in the original Resource Center, and it's going to be the first option listed. And so this is one of our more popular resources. We are looking at moving all of this information over into the Hub. Eventually, if somebody had this link bookmarked, it would redirect into the Hub so that you're only accessing it in one place. You're not trying to submit the form for a new solar PV database in the wrong location. So this is something we're pretty excited to move into the hub because we have several hundred solar installations right now, so that's really going to increase the number of resources available at your fingertips. Another resource that we're looking at integrating is the campus green funds, revolving funds, and hybrid funds databases. That is available under the planning, administration, and finance section of the hub. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of this just a little bit more, and it's under investment and financing. So just as an example here, the campus sustainability green funds database. Right now that has 154 green funds. We've actually got we've gotten information from some of our partners that there's actually another database out there that we can access to increase that number quite a bit. So we will be working, the AASHE programs team will be working over the next few weeks to collect all of that information and migrate that into the campus sustainability hub. So another project that will probably take place in, these two issues are more highly prioritized, but this next project I'm going to talk about is going to happen probably in the next 2 months or so. But we're going to be building out a partners tab in the toolkits page. So let me get back here. If you look at one of our toolkits, let's look at research right now. Right now you see the toolkit panel, the resources panel, stars data. So we're going to add another panel here that's labeled partners. And what that's going to showcase is it's going to show you any AASHE affiliated businesses and also any organizations such as nonprofits, government entities, and such that relate to a specific resource. And it's actually going to be based on AASHE's Sustainable Campus Partners Directory, which I had briefly mentioned earlier. Now, this directory was built a few months ago, and it allows users to easily find information on products and services that can boost sustainability initiatives and goals. You can see the business leader members are listed first, and then a lot of the supporting members and affiliate members are listed further from there. So in this case, you see that Altenex and Customer First Renewables, those are two organizations that we know focus largely on energy issues. So you would very likely see Altenex and Customer First listed under the Energy Toolkit in the Partners tab, along with just about any of the other affiliated organizations at AASHE that focus on energy. And so we're giving organizations the opportunity to identify which topics are most relevant to their business through the campus Sustainable Campus Partners Directory, and we'll be excited to integrate that into the hub in the coming months. Okay, so that covers the very short term. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the rest of this year and beyond. So for the rest of 2016, one of our biggest projects is going to be figuring out a way to directly integrate STARS data into the hub. Now, as you saw a few moments ago, whenever we were talking about the STARS data section, this page will link out to the STARS server. Whenever that happens, sometimes you have to log into the STARS website, especially if you haven't been on a STARS page in a while. The system won't remember that you were once logged in a few days ago. So that's a little bit cumbersome. And the other issue we find is that right now the STARS data displays we recognize could be a lot stronger. There are some limitations with the filters that we provide now, and we've decided, well, we've built the hub, we've got a platform that has some really really great options for flexibility in terms of using filters. Rather than try to rebuild what's on the STARS server, we'd like to incorporate something into the hub so that, once again, everything is available with one quick search rather than having to access various different sites to pull information together. And so the STARS project, we're calling this phase 2 of the hub, by the way. It's kind of broken up right now into two similar projects, but fairly disparate. The first part of it is going to focus on benchmarking data. So basically looking at all of the quantitative data and providing graphs, dashboards, and other views to summarize institutions' performance on various topics through STARS. We're going to try to find out if we can use the filter options already available in the hub, and we'll possibly add a new set of filters to allow you to identify peer institutions more easily. So, for example, perhaps we'll add filters for athletic conference. So that's definitely something that'll happen down the road. We'll have to think through what that will look like. But the key here is that you'll be able to select peer institutions or groups of types of institutions and see how they're performing on scores within STARS, but perhaps also on performance data itself. For example, you'll be able to pull up energy use per gross square foot for a certain number of institutions, and you can compare how your institution is doing along with its peers there. So that'll be something that we're really excited about launching over the next few months. The other part of the STARS project will be the giving access to the programs and initiatives within STARS that we collect, the data that we collect within descriptive fields, essentially. And this will, number one, it will help to incorporate some of those best practices into the hub. It'll also cut down on duplication of efforts. For some programs and initiatives, for example, we would request information through STARS, but we'd also request that in the original resource center. So we definitely would like to create a single access point for entering in information as much as possible. We know STARS is already, it takes a long time to fill out. We want to take advantage of all of the information that folks are putting into STARS by integrating it seamlessly into the hub, and that way making all of those fields searchable and filterable just like any other content type. So there's definitely a lot we need to sketch out and plan for this, and our planning phase is going to be probably late spring and early throughout the summer of this year, and then our IT department will hopefully get started on implementing some of the STARS plans in the next couple of months into late 2016, and hopefully by early 2017 we'll have something to share with all of you again. So some of the other, so the last major sort of milestone we have planned for this project, we're calling this phase 3, is what we're calling community features. And this, for right now, we're leaving it somewhat vague, but we're shooting for 2017. At some point we'll be working on this and hopefully completing it all through 2017. Our goal is to encourage engagement, collaboration, and networking through the hub, along with making it the resource for information sharing and learning. And so in order to encourage engagement and collaboration, we would like to provide some additional features that aren't yet available. And some of the features that we've talked about include topic-based discussion forums that you can subscribe to and follow. Now, we have something like this already in place with the AASHE discussion forums, and that's available right now in the original Resource Center. However, again, because that's sort of a separate resource, it's not tied to everything else, it just hasn't gotten a whole lot of traction over the years, and we look forward to sort of refreshing this initiative by incorporating it into the hub. Another option that we're looking at including is something we're calling campus profiles. And with this, anyone can basically look up an institution and see everything that is in the hub related to that institution. They can see the publications, perhaps, that were submitted by folks at that institution, or the conference presentations. They could also see information related to STARS, since phase 2 will have already be done by then. Now, right now, you can sort of get to this information by using the filters and clicking, selecting a single institution in the filter like I showed you earlier today, but it's really not all that helpful, and the views aren't really all that clean looking, and you have to go through a bit of work each time you want to click on an institution. It's not it's not as efficient as we'd like it to be. So we're excited about introducing excuse me, campus profiles. And another slightly different but very similar feature that we're looking at for the future is called user profiles. In this case, excuse me, I'm going to pause for some water. So user profiles basically are similar to campus profiles in that now you can click on a particular user. And will probably allow you to opt in whether you want to share your user profile or leave it private. But you can click on your username to view the resources that you submitted as well as the resources that you're affiliated with. So maybe you are a presenter at a conference and your presentation is in the hub, so that will show up on your user profile. It'll be a really useful professional development tool to be able to see your particular resources and areas that you've been working in. It'll be useful for networking and for information sharing. You'll be able to look up your colleagues and see who's doing some things similar to me, who might have information that can help me answer this question. So that's just two of the ways that user profiles could be used. And finally, another request that we've gotten from folks over the last few months as we've been implementing the hub is the ability to like or save resources. Now, for right now, whenever you click on a resource or have a filtered output or search, all of that is captured in a unique URL. So you can always bookmark a URL somewhere to keep track of it and go back to it later. But in this case, liking or saving a resource would allow you to kind of keep a file of them all in one place. Perhaps it would be on your user profile and you can access it at any time. So that's basically our plans for the future. Those are the major milestones. I'm sure there'll be more coming up. We tend to add things to the IT plate as we go, which is unfortunately one of the reasons that in the past things have gotten a little bit extended with our deadlines. We're going to try not to do that too much though. But at the same time, we want to be open to feedback and ideas on ways to improve the Resource Center or improve the Campus Sustainability Hub. And so I wanted to quickly draw your attention to this option for providing feedback before we end today. And it's, let me go back to make sure everyone saw that. Again, in the footer section of every page, there's under About and Submission Guidelines, there is a link to provide feedback. You can click on the link, and it takes you to a very, very short survey. I believe it's, let's see, 4 or 5 questions, and a lot of them are optional. So you can simply go in and fill out your feedback. We welcome kudos as well as criticisms. So anything, usually what you type in will be used for informing our next steps. We talk about this type of feedback at every weekly meeting related to the hub, so we'll take your feedback very seriously. But besides that, if you have any questions about the hub, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can also just email resources@aashe.org, and that way if I'm happen to be out of the office that day, you can simply reach out there and somebody else will be able to help you. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to Daita, who will help facilitate questions and help us close out the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monica. And before I go to the questions part, would you mind please plugging in your laptop, because a couple of attendees are worried that you'll run out of battery. So thank you for your detailed presentation about the Campus Sustainability Hub and tips for making the most of this new resource, as well as outlining future plans. The first question that I will address is that this presentation is being recorded, and we will make the recording available to all who attended this webinar and others, and you'll receive an email tomorrow with the link to the recording. So now I will go to the first question, but actually before that, I would also like to remind everyone to send your questions via the questions pane on the GoToWebinar control panel. So the first question is, how would somebody find cross-topic information like campus as a living lab?
Excellent. So living labs, that's a great example of where the tags will be useful. So what I'm going to do to demonstrate how to find living labs in particular is, again, I'm going to use the useful tip that I shared with all of you earlier today. And instead of navigating to a topic or a content type, I'm just going to go to the search bar, click on Go without typing anything in the search bar, and then I'm going to pull up in a moment everything that's in, oh, I'm sorry, I have to log in before I can access everything. But I think I can show you what happens and how to get to this without logging in. So when you get to the filters, all you need to do is take a look and see if Living Labs is an option for you to look at, and it most certainly is. So you can click on Living Labs and click on Apply Filters. And for right now, there's 107 results. So you should, you can either look at the filters again, drill down, or start looking at these one by one. You can maybe opt to sort by most recent and pull up the ones that are that were most recently added. But yeah, I mean, for Living Labs, in this particular example, this is how I would recommend identifying these types of resources. And then hopefully the tags feature will help to, will kind of power other types of inquiries. You know, perhaps it's not Living Labs, maybe it's zero waste, maybe it's social justice, maybe it's indigenous culture. We don't have a place right now that's publicly accessible for you to view every single tag that's been added. But I can tell you that we're keeping track of that ourselves, and there's over 400. So if you see a resource that's not tagged with something and you think it should be, you can let us know and we can add that. And hopefully that will sort of address any questions down the road. And if that doesn't answer your question, feel free to type in the questions pane if you want something more specific. But I'm hoping that, the tags feature is something that's going to be really helpful for you in a search for that type of resource or just about anything else. Thank you.
Thanks, Monica. The next question, which is related, is can you select multiple attributes to search from the left sidebar? For example, instead of just Texas, could you select Alabama, Texas, and New Mexico?
Yes, I should have demonstrated that. I wanted to keep it fairly simple, but yes, you can definitely select multiple attributes, not just from the same field, but from multiple fields as well. So going back to the all resources list, I'll clear out the Living Labs tag, and now I will go ahead and use some of the examples that you provided. So going to United States, you have to do that first in order to pull up the states list. Oh, and by the way, for our Canadian friends, if you click on Canada, you'll pull up all the Canadian provinces. So you can also search by province pretty easily and conveniently. But let's say we go back to United States. What were the options? So we had Texas, New Mexico, Daita, what else?
And Alabama.
Alabama. So you can definitely select several there and apply your filters. And what you see, the results here, and you can see all of the affiliated organizations right below the title. Several of them are from Texas. It's a big state. Sometimes, like in this case, you'll see a resource that includes multiple organizations, and that's great. We actually really encourage folks that have collaborative resources to submit, and it's really easy to add more than one organization when you submit a resource. But I'm going to keep scrolling because okay, so there's a New Mexico institution. Here's one that has Texas, another Texas, a lot of Texas here. But essentially, yes, I think all of the filters are structured in a way where you can select multiple options. You can, for example, select under organization type. Maybe you want to select everything, and I forgot to share that handy feature. There's a quick and easy way to clear everything, except you have to unclear manually. So that's the only piece that's a little bit tricky. But if you want to add everything and then maybe take away, I'm not really maybe I really want to focus on universities and higher education. So maybe I'll take out the ones that don't really focus on that. But yeah, the filters are really, really flexible, and it's probably one of my favorite features. So kudos to Ben and the IT team for all the time they spent with the filters. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Another question is for someone who already has a resource in the hub. Can they submit additional links and materials such as PDF of conference presentations to these resources?
Absolutely. So we definitely would love to get you to do that. One of the things that we did with the conference presentations in particular is we went ahead and populated the conference presentations with every single AASHE conference presentation that we've pretty much held that was related to something that was, you know, an informative session versus, you know, something promotional, I guess. And that includes resources that didn't necessarily have the PowerPoint deck or, you know, the supplemental presentation materials. So what you'll find when you're in conference presentations right now is that there are a lot of sessions. There's 3,500 sessions right now. And it's going to be one that every year we're going to add close to 1,000 more. So it'll be a very, you know, it'll become very huge, very fast over the years. But I'd say about 40% of those sessions that are there right now actually have the supplemental materials. And so when if you know that, for example, you've presented at AASHE before, there's a 99% certainty that your session is already in here. So I would definitely recommend searching it, finding it for us. Now, here's the step that's a little bit tricky. We currently don't have a way for users to edit a resource themselves. It was actually one of our specifications on our initial wish list when we were working with our contractor, but we learned it would take a lot of time. It's actually a very complicated IT process to ensure that users can edit resources in a way that doesn't, you know, you don't lose what was initially there and allow for the AASHE staff to continue to moderate that resource. So that is something that if we continue to see, we're kind of playing it by ear. For right now, if you would like to edit a resource in the hub, you simply can email resources@aashe.org. Let us know, here's the resource that's already in the hub, here's the presentation I want to add to it, or here's the change I would like to make. Maybe you want to add a presenter. In some cases, some years, we would only include the submitter and not all the affiliated presenters for conference presentations. So that was a bit of a long-winded response, but I think the main thing to remember is you can definitely submit changes to resources. Email resources@aashe.org. We will have to implement those changes in the admin ourselves. And then eventually, if we feel that this is something that is taking up a fair amount of our time and is somewhat, you know, more cumbersome, and it's happening more often than, you know, once a week or something, we're going to work with our IT staff to figure out a way to make that process easier so that you as the user can go ahead and edit that yourself at any point in time. So yeah, thanks for the question.
Thank you. The next question is, do any of these member-only resources turn up as results in general web searches, or can they only be found by searching within the hub after login?
Yes, it's a great question. So first of all, a lot of the resources that are in the hub are already on the web. For example, academic programs. Those, you know, one of the requirements for the academic programs content type is that there has to be a valid URL associated with each academic program. And so the program itself is, of course, accessible in a Google search. Now, there are some content types that are much more unique. And so the case studies is, I think, a great example. This is something that it's basically, and maybe if I navigate, I think I should just log in so that I can really show you the case study submission form. All right. So on the case study submission form, there are several fields where we request descriptive information, project overview, academic or background, project goals, and such. This is probably fairly unique. I'd be surprised if you found a similar resource on a web page anywhere else on the web. So this is one case where you can pretty much say that a case study at AASHE is very different from anything else you'll find. Now, in terms of accessibility of the actual resources that are already in the hub, they will be generated, they will show up in Google search results. Because this is a new resource right now, we're still building up our search engine optimization, but eventually, the Campus Sustainability Hub, especially since we're working on a redirect project where the resources that we migrated from the old resource center, now that those are moved in, we can redirect all of those old links so that it automatically goes into the hub. And so once we have that finalized, we're going to see our search engine SEO rank go up and up and up, especially for certain types of resources. So whenever you submit a resource, it's very likely that you might also find it in a Google search. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question that I will quickly address was who's our primary contact for membership. So the best way is to email membership@aashe.org or go to our website under About AASHE, Contact Us. You can find a listing of all the AASHE staff. So the next question is, can we have position descriptions added as a content type? Could be helpful for sharing student and professional positions.
Yeah, I'm glad that you raised that. One of the things that we have, so the AASHE bulletin does actually include jobs, like current jobs that are open. And we also have, it's kind of buried in the old resource center, but there is a position description resource in the old resource center where you can go and access information related to position descriptions. And for both of those, we're going to be working on integrating under, it's kind of like late phase one. For one, we're currently kind of debating, do we want to bring the entire bulletin into the hub? So there's definitely some pros and cons there, but one of the big pros is that all of those news items that we're collecting in a separate place will be able to take advantage of the same platform. In addition, if you do a search, you only have to do one search, whereas now you have to search both the hub and then the bulletin to find information related to what you're looking for. So that's something, when that happens, we will have a job description, like a position announcements section in the hub that is going to be pulling from that bulletin information. But in addition, in the meantime, we need to look at if whoever is the person that requested that, I can follow up, and maybe I'll just follow up with you after this, because I do want to find the resource that we do have already in the resource center, which focuses on position descriptions. So I guess the response to your question is that we will have to look at that resource more closely and to determine whether it's something we can incorporate into the hub and make it available so that folks can see examples of job descriptions. And I have a feeling it's under resources for campus sustainability. Officers, yes, example job descriptions. Here it is. So hopefully you'll be able to access this link as well and pull this up. Right now it's just a static list. We haven't had any requests to add to it recently, so I'm not sure how much traffic this is currently getting. But if this is something that you think is really useful and should be added to the hub, I mean, that's how we're going to inform future development, is when we hear from all of you that something would be really helpful. Can you please figure out a way to make this work? So yeah, let us know if that's if that's something you'd like to incorporate. We want to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Next question. Does AASHE outreach to other non-member organizations to encourage their submissions, for example, NOAA, EPA, State of California Energy Commission?
Yeah, I'm getting so many great questions here. This is exciting. So um, I think the answer to that question is yes. And I think the the more expanded question is it's something that we're still working on and we're getting better at it over time. There are a few sort of projects we're working on right now. For example, with the advisory council, the AASHE advisory council is working on helping us to develop a sort of partners program where we can partner with regional organizations or topical organizations more closely. And that's just one example, but I know that since Megan has been leading the ship here at AASHE, it's something that partnership and collaboration with other organizations has been really, really a high priority for AASHE since then. And so I think that over time we'll continue to do that. We did reach out to several partner listservs just earlier this week to encourage folks to attend the webinar and start submitting resources. And we've gotten some good feedback from that. So we hope to continuously get additional feedback as we continue to do that. But thanks for the feedback there.
Thank you. Another question is about the video submissions. Did you say webinar slides can be added to the videos as well? And I think we have a webinar submission. Maybe you can pull it up.
Yes, so I'm going to go back to the hub and I'm going to, I think here I'm going to go to all resources again, and we do have a webinars tag. So anytime anyone submits a webinar, whether you include the tag or not, we'll make sure it gets added. And as you can see, webinars tag shows up right now. Daita, we only have 2 webinars. I think we have yet to add in some of the archived AASHE webinars. So
Yes.
That's something that you and I can work on over the next few weeks or days, depending on what other projects we have going on. But for example, the AASHE webinar series, if I click on that, it is a video. And the reason it's a video is because one of the main link for this webinar YouTube recording, it has the, one of the links here has the recording for the webinar itself. So I could go in here and access this. Don't want to cause too much confusion there, but you get the gist. But yes, if you have a webinar and you've done an AASHE webinar, there's a good chance that it will be added very soon. It's something that we're going to be working on over the next few weeks. If you have an upcoming webinar, we'll be adding those. And so if there's a webinar that you did at another organization, then we probably won't know about it. So you can submit it as a video, provide a video recording of the webinar. If there is not a video recording, but you still want to share the resource, I would recommend just emailing resources@aashe.org and letting us know, this is webinar, but there's no actual link, but it's a presentation. Maybe we would add it under conference presentations and figure out a way to make that work, or there might be another workaround. So just if you have questions about things not cleanly fitting into a particular content type, just let us know.
Thank you. There's a couple of comments. One of them was that this attendee would love to have the list of available text viewable. And another one that it would be helpful to add sustainability office governance to Hub, for example, teasing out info from the AASHE staffing and salary survey, size of office versus size of campus, program services offered, etc.
Yeah, that's great feedback. And Daita, we're going to be keeping track of all of the comments after this so that I can follow up by email on a lot of those, right? Perfect. So if you submitted a question and we didn't get to it, then we'll be able to address it that way. And I'll also be able to provide additional feedback about those particular comments, because I think there are ways that we have incorporated some of those types of governance resources. For example, the AASHE staffing survey is already in the hub, the recent one anyway. So yeah, we can maybe connect about how to access that more easily in the follow-up email.
Thank you, Monica, for your great presentations. We are at the end of our webinar, and if you have additional questions, please email them to resources, and Monica or another AASHE staff person will get back to you. Also, the recording and the slides will be available, and you'll receive an email tomorrow with the link to this hub resource. Also, on the AASHE website, you can find the schedule of future webinars and workshops, as well as information about the AASHE 2016 Conference and Expo. Before we conclude, I would like to remind you to please fill out the post-webinar survey, which will show up on your screen once the webinar ends. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.